Welcome back to NRM 638, Python Scripting for ArcGIS Applications, Spring Semester 2015. This is an e-learning class at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. In this session, we're going to work with user functions in the field calculator. And usually what I like to do is troubleshoot checking for errors in IDLE before I use a function in the field calculator. So go to the Blackboard website and download this file, lastword.py. And what this function is trying to do is return the last word of a text field string, and it uses the .split function. So basically .split takes a string and creates a list from that string based on, in this case, anywhere there's a space, that's going to be a separator. So we'll first use the Python interpreter IDLE and check for syntax errors. So the reason why I do this rather than using Arcmap is it's a lot easier to fix syntax errors. So we've got a syntax error. And the first syntax error is we've got a function, and anytime you have a def statement to define a function, you need to end that statement with a colon. So now we'll check, do we have any other syntax errors? So we'll save it, and we have another syntax error, and it says unindent does not match outer indentation level. So here's where we have a problem, is I have 4 spaces, and then these lines are executed within my function, so my return also should be 4 spaces in. So then we'll check for syntax errors, and we have no syntax errors. So then we could run our function. So run. Okay, so now we've got our function, and the Python interpreter knows about our function, so we could test drive it. So we'll test drive it. We'll make a test string enclosed in either single quotes or double quotes. So I'll make my test string NRM 638 Python scripting. Okay, so I need to use a Alt-P to recall my previous command, and it's a single quote because I started with single quotes. Okay, so we've got this string called test. So now we'll use that function. So test last equals, and then my function is last word. We're going to send to that function our variable called test. Okay, so now I've got a runtime error that I have text field is not defined, so we need to fix that runtime error. So my input is a variable called text field, so I'll go Control-C copy. So I need to be consistent and use that same name, so Control-C paste. And then we'll run our module one more time. Okay, so test, I forgot, so we'll go Alt-P, and then Alt-P to re-execute it. Okay, so then inside test last, we've got the last word. So basically what that .split function did was it made this the first item in the list, this the next item in the list, this is the last item in our list, and in our function, we said take that last item in our list and return it. Okay, so you can see that it's a lot easier to sort of troubleshoot in Python and work out all the bugs, and then we could use this in our field calculator. So I'm going to copy this, and then we'll go to our field calculator. Okay, so let's create a text field, and you could call it whatever you want. I'll call it last. And then right mouse click on that text field and then field calculator. Okay, so to use functions in the Arcmap field calculator, you would click on show codebook and then paste your function into that pre-logic script code. So basically, this is the name of our function, last word. So that's what we need to use. So I'll Control-C to copy it, and then Control-V to paste the name of my function. So it's the name of my function, and then whatever text field I want to test it with. So I want to take this as my input and send that to this function last word. So basically this field becomes this variable in the function. And then it's going to return the last word. So then we could say, okay, and there's a failure. So we need to go to our results window, what happened? So in our results window, messages, indentation error, unexpected indent on line 1. So if we go back to our field calculator, okay, I had a space right here that I needed to get rid of. And then we could execute this function and then just okay. So basically what it does is return the last word from every text field string. Okay, we can modify this if we're interested in the first word. So I'll name this first word. And then we're going to call this function first word. So first word, and then pass that text field to this function called first word. So this becomes the variable. You could call it whatever you want. And then basically what we want to do is get the very first word. So we'll call this first. So first is going to be equal to the first item in our list, which is index 0. And then return that string variable called first. And then just okay. And in this case, my first, I had some padded with spaces, so it returned spaces. So let's get rid of those spaces and we'll rerun this function. So I'll copy this and then don't show code book. And then we'll get rid of those spaces. So if I go to text field, field calculator, so take my text field and then strip out those spaces. Okay, so now if we run this field calculator, and it's going to be the name of our function, so first word, and then pass this field, text field, that function. So pass this text field to this function, this becomes a string variable, and then the next line we split it into a list, and then the next line we take that first item in our list. So I'll change that comment to first item in the list, and then return. So it returns the first word in our list. And then if you want to, you could go your field calculator and save this function. So save it to some folder and we'll call this first word. You can write functions to check for values. So for example, we're going to reclassify this field, and if the value is less than 2, we're going to have a text class small, all the way up to all the values greater than or equal to 4 will get assigned a text class large. And if we have a field value like a -1 or a 0, that will get a text class of undefined. So go to the Blackboard website and download this reclassify.py and then check for syntax errors. And then we'll run this just to test it. So run the module. So now it knows about this function. So we could say, give us a value of 1. What is that reclassified as? That reclassified as small. And what does a value of 3 reclassify? And go to our Arcmap, and then field calculator, show codebook, and then paste it. So once again, the function name is reclassify, so that's what we're going to use when we call this function, reclassify, and then send some value to our function, and in this case our value will be from this integer field 1. Oops, and then we have to do the Python parser. So for example, 1 is going to be our first record value. That will become this input value. And then if it's less than 2, text class will be small, and that will ultimately be returned to this text field. And then just OK. So basically that's a quick and easy way to reclassify based on values in some field. Okay, so if you go to the Blackboard website, I've got a quiz question for you that will lead you to the next video session, which is working with time and date fields in the field calculator.